Hello, everybody. Thank you again so much for this opportunity to speak about my art and speak about Mudita. So honored to be here for this collaboration online webinar and music workshop, hybrid cultures and sonic diversity of Thai and Japanese music. And this is a phase one of our long-lasting collaborations, hopefully. And I'm super excited to be here. So I'll just get started. So before getting into the topic today, I would like to introduce myself briefly. My name is Ryo Hasegawa. I'm a conductor and a music and art entrepreneur. I was born in Kanagawa, Japan, and I grew up there until high school. And I went to Rollins College, Florida, and graduated from there. It's a small liberal arts college in Central Florida, about like 20 minutes away from Disney World. And I had a music degree, but like I said, it was a liberal arts college. I was able to sort of explore beyond the music. So unlike like music conservatory, I was able to take classes from multi-disciplines. And that really shaped my foundation as an artist, as a conductor, to have a exposure to sort of different angles, different perspectives other than musicians. So I graduated there in 2019. And I spent a couple of summers in Europe attending some music festival as a conductor. Alien Baltic International Music Festival in Estonia, Vienna Summer Music Festival in Austria. And also I worked for Charleston Symphony in South Carolina. I worked as an conducting intern as well as assistant conductor. And one summer, I think this is the summer of 2018, I also spent in Kenya, Rongai, Kenya. And there's a small high school called the Vanessa Grant Girls School, where a colleague and I helped build a music program. And that was also a big moment for me for establishing Mudita, because we saw this passion from the students. And you know, regardless all the environments that they are living, and I don't think this is the right word to say it because it's just my perspective, but you know, comparing with our sort of natural environment, you know, it was a very different environment where the students were studying. But regardless of those differences, you know, we saw this shining eyes, we saw this passion of wanting to learn music. And that's really where we sort of realized that the music is for everybody. Music should be accessible for everybody. So following year, we started Mudita in Japan. And I will talk more about Mudita later. And I'm also founder and artistic director of Seminole Music Celebration in Florida, which is a summer music festival where we explore diversity in classical music and getting some new music performed by young musicians in Florida. And I'm currently attending a Peabody Conservatory of the Johns Hopkins University, majoring my master in orchestral conducting with Marin Alsop and Joseph Young. So that's where I am in Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. Currently, it is 12:43 a.m. Bright and up, early in the morning. Okay, so that's sort of who I am. So before I sort of go over the main topic that I will be presenting today, this spirit of Mudita, multiculturalism in music and art organization. Maybe if I play this promotional video for this year that we made, maybe you might have a better sort of start of understanding what Mudita is. So I'll just go ahead to play. Hopefully you all can hear the sound as well.
アートの力で嘘偽りのない自分をさらけ出すことで周りの世界を理解できる、歩み寄れる。気づいた時にはもう私は一人じゃない。Art is anything we don't have to do. だからこそアートは日常生活の中に身近に存在する。だからこそアートは全ての人のものである。それに気づいてほしい。アートの多様性を、アートの親近性を共有したい。Art is the connection to the universe. 今日からあなたもアーティストになって、ムディターと一緒に世界への扉を開いてみませんか？次はあなたの番です。
ムディター。
アートが人をつなぐ。
Right. So in 2019, November, we started this organization as a sort of group of volunteer people. It was the collection of people who were passionate about changing the art education in Japan, or just changing the notion of art and music in Japan. And we planned our first workshop, which is called the First Movement, the art education, the workshop for art education in Japan, inviting 6 different musicians and artists from all over the world, and having them to speak and perform about their experience with the art and music. But obviously, the COVID happened and pandemic started, so nothing really happened as we planned. So since the pandemic started, we sort of switched the gear into creating online contents and sharing videos and online contents through our YouTube channels and social medias. Our main hope was to sort of have a direct interactions with the people through art, and unfortunately, it didn't happen right away when we started because of the pandemic. But through sharing our online contents, connecting with many artists and musicians from all over the world, introducing their art to the audience in Japan, made us stronger in terms of connecting with musicians, connecting with artists, and creating the community virtually. So despite all the pandemic and difficulties, we were able to grow as an organization. And we officially registered Mudita as a non-profit corporation in Japan in June 2021. So it was just a couple of months ago. We are now officially a non-profit organization. And since then, we were able to have several events, workshops in person, and concerts as well, which are very successful. My colleagues, unfortunately, since I'm living in the United States, my wonderful colleagues are just putting wonderful workshops and concerts and events in Tokyo, which are quite popular. So art connects people is one of the sort of central ideas for our vision statement as Mudita. The world where people can come closer to one another through the experience with art. So why we do it, why we do what we do, and some of the importance of our activities that Mudita has done, will do in Japanese art, music, education scene. I would like to sort of explore that and take you all to the journey of our vision. So most of the founding member of Mudita had an experience in living or studying abroad. So we were sort of able to compare the issues of Japanese art or music education with other countries. But we did not really assume this is what we think and this is what's happening. So we actually started gathering all the informations and data from multiple sources. So we gathered data from like census and some of the data of art participation in Japan. We also gathered some of the statistics of like where people go to experience art in Japan, and how many times they visit concerts or museum and so on. So I'm sorry that we couldn't find an English translation for this kind of graph and chart, but this is basically the top one is this is the budget that they spent for arts and culture, depending on the country. So the first one is France, and they spent. This is 2016, so it's a little old. But for 1 year, France spent about $4 billion for arts and culture. South Korea spent about $2.5 billion. UK, Germany, US, China, and Japan. So, I think, however, the, developed countries that we think of, about 20 countries, Japan has the least sort of national budget that they spend for the art. Now, the bottom graph, this one, is basically the ratio of how much they spent from the national budget. And as you can see, again, the Korea is about 1% of entire national budget that they spend for arts and culture. Now, that's not too much, but it's the most sort of amount in comparing with developed countries. And France, followed by Germany, China, UK, and Japan. Now, 0.1% of national budget. Now, how much is that, right? Like it's just such a tiny bit of national budget is spent for art and culture. Now, that also includes not just, kind of setting up the events or setting up the museums or concerts that country sponsored, but also it includes the education budget. Art education budget. So it's such a tiny kind of part of country that they spent for art and music education. Of course, there are many private organizations, companies that will promote to sponsor the art education, art scene concerts. But this is just a reality that we face today. Oops. Now, next, the data these are just like a small portion of what we gather. We have actually quite extensive data of where we are in terms of art and music in Japan. But the left one, it's basically asking, well, they have this list of things. So the first one is the film, movie theater, music, like concert, museums or art. And the last one is just the historical buildings and architecture and stuff. And they were just asking how many times they went to see or did art, movie, theater, music, concert, museum, or architecture. And yes, majority of the people actually answered that they haven't been to those places. Of course, the movie theater is the largest number. But keep in your mind that actually the Japanese school curriculum asks all the students to visit at least one, or they actually invite the theater production to the schools. So most of the school students have already been to one of those. But still, right? Still, there are 40% of people who actually have never been to any of these: movie theater, concerts, museums, or architecture. Among those 40 people, we asked, why? Why didn't you go? The largest percentage, the largest answer was this one. It says, not interested in. And the second largest was the bottom one. So I don't know. I don't know why. So I think this is like, quite clear for us that, there's not really enough interest in art. So I'm going to go to the next chart. So I just talked about this was a museum concert, basically appreciation that before, that they go to see the art, they go to listen to that. Now this chart is actually to create art, to do something, to make music, right? So apart from appreciation, apart from going to something to appreciate art, have you done any art activities? Have you actually created something? Have you played music? And 28%, yes, I have, in some local art festival, or I actually learn instruments, or I learn, art. But again, 71%, they said, not really, I've never really done art in the past year. So it's again, the interest rate is so low. And before really, going to see or listen to, there's no enough motivation to do art, to actually, engage from, inner sort of motivation. So that's also another thing that we saw as an issue. So apart from gathering the all the data, the information, which is quite fun to see, where we are as a country from the numbers, we also conducted several interviews with teachers, music teachers and art teachers who teaches in high school and middle school. And we were sort of able to hear the direct, opinions and what they think as a teacher. Now, there were a couple, actually, the sort of key issues that they addressed. One of them was the time management for teachers. So there is not really a person who deals with sort of outside school, outside of classes in Japanese educational system. In other words, there's in the US, there's some counselor who deals with the parents, who does other stuff outside the class that the students might need help. But in Japanese school, the teachers have to sort of deal with everything, communicating with parents and sort of figuring out what the students might need outside the class. So the biggest thing is that the teachers don't have the time to really, commit themselves fully in teaching. Also, the Japanese pedagogical education, in other words, the people who want to be a teacher go to university, but like, all of us as an artist, that they go to university to learn some specific area. Like for me as a conductor, I go to school to learn orchestra conducting. I don't learn how to play trumpet as a major instrument. So let's say if you are a trumpet player, you go to university, you get the trumpet degree, and you want to be a high school teacher. And the first thing that you have to do is to conduct a chorus. Now, this person doesn't even like to sing, doesn't even like to, really direct the chorus. It's hard for them to really teach. the chorus. So, I think the pedagogy, the how to become a teacher is also something that we have to kind of rethink going forward to have more comprehensive, well-rounded teachers for the schools. Also, we were able to analyze some of the textbooks that they're using. Now, these textbooks were sort of within the curriculum. It was made within the curriculum the country sets. So it contains all the things the country wants the schools to teach to the students. Now, roughly for the music textbook, it contains about 50% of Japanese traditional music, from folk song, choir song, or some history of Japanese composers or history of Japanese traditional music. About 40% is Western music. In other words, Beethoven or some Schubert's song, or Mozart's Requiem or something like that. And the rest of the 10% is others. Now that others would include the music from Thailand, or music from Nigeria or some other countries. But that 10% is so tiny to introduce other music and other like video game music or film music. So they might probably have some picture of a gamelan band, or they might have some picture of some dancers from this African tribes, but that's it. So we have this issue of limited resources in terms of the diverse context in the school textbook. Now this slide tells us the hour for the music classes. Now in 1947, we had 105 hours for music classes in the middle school. Now it actually went down to 2002, went to 35 hours a year for music school. So we actually decreased 70 hours of hours that they would spend teaching music. So not only we limit the context of what they teach and the potential what teacher can teach, but also we dramatically decrease the hour that they can spend time with the music in the schools. So we also, just for fun, looked at some other information. Now, this is a frequent practice of artistic activities based on the countries. Now, I know this is a little tiny, but it has like a country name. So as the more frequent that they participate in art activities, it has a more higher graph. If you look at the Finland, has a higher participation rate. Germany, Austria, and here Iceland, Norway, Switzerland. And if we go to the next slide, this is a ranking of happiness. So basically, this is a small census of how happy you feel. If you look at the top countries, again, it's Finland, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, Netherlands, Switzerland. Now we see some similarity or correlation. As more frequent you participate in art, people might feel more fulfilled in their life. Finland is the highest here. And then again, the happiness ranking is also number one. Now, okay, so this is probably a bit subjective. It's not scientific at all, nothing really proven. But we are sort of kind of, started seeing the art has such a potential to kind of, to engage our life, the fulfillment of our life, and, sort of sense of happiness, well-being, or meaningful life. And as we lack the art activities, as we saw in the previous graphs and data, it is some issues right there. So not just only our assumption from coming to different countries to study, but also it was a reality that is the Japan needs to face in terms of the lack of art, music, education, and opportunities. So after looking at this data, we did a lot of workshops with Mudita members to figure out how we can change this situation. We, shared our experiences, our thoughts and knowledges, and, try to kind of come up with several ways to approach to these issues. But we always came down to the idea of mudita. Now, this is the word from Sanskrit in ancient Buddhist meditation. Joy that comes from delighting in other people's joy. In other words, having a happiness in seeing somebody else's happiness, basically empathetic joy, empathetic happiness. So our sort of thoughts kind of gathered in the center of this idea of empathy. Any magical moment that happens in our artistic experience is sort of the somewhat we feel emotionally with others. And it is a very vague word, empathy, and very subjective. And we try to define the word and try to identify what we're aiming for to solve these issues around this word empathy. The word empathy, so I did some research on the music cognition, the relationship with our brain and music, the Peabody. And there are some researches and studies has done recently talking about this relationship between empathy and music, or our brain system that triggers the feeling of empathy and music. So just briefly, I would like to explain this, the mirror neuron system. This was the study that was conducted by Dr. Edward Lurch at the Florida Atlantic University. So he basically did some experiment with scanning the brains of a non-musician as they listened to Chopin's etude, the two versions of Chopin's etude actually. One is the recording of this performance that was played by actual pianist. And the other one is just stripped down to the literal version of what Chopin wrote without human-induced variations in timing and dynamics. So during the original performance, which was the actual performance by pianist, brain areas linked to the emotion activated much more than with the uninflected version, which was just kind of no variation in time or dynamics. And so did the mirror neuron system. Now, the mirror neuron system, as you can see here, is a set of brain regions shown to become engaged when a person watches somebody doing an activity the observer knows what to do or how to do it. For example, like dancers watching the video of dance, or musicians watching a video of other musicians playing. So those regions, the mirror neuron system, are tapping into what we call empathy, as if you are feeling an emotion that is being conveyed by a performer on stage, and the brain is sort of mirroring those emotions. So there are other sort of experiments and studies that sort of provides evidences where the music can trigger this sort of a mirroring, reflecting feeling, sort of emotional kind of connections to the performers or to the music that recently has done. So that kind of, and I don't want to get into scientific to academic, but, at least we now know there is a sort of foundation that we can sort of build off the connections between empathy and music or art that we can kind of go for to promote art and music education in Japan from different angles other than academic within the 30 hours in the middle school. So after, more of, workshops in the Mudita, and we share all the experiences, knowledges, and how we feel about it, about the magical moment of being empathetic, through art and music. It came down to this idea that empathy is really a human connections. We knew that empathy is some form of emotional connections, putting our feet in somebody else's shoes, understanding where they're coming from and listening to others compassionately. But this idea of human connections tied with our idea of empathy is also inspired by another major issues that Japan is facing today. Now, this is the chart of indicating the numbers of people who died alone. Kodokushi is a Japanese word, alone death. So recent years, the people are just living by themselves alone, and they die alone. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know their family. So it's like literally alone death. And this is just only in Tokyo, but you can see, as we kind of go more recent years, 2017, 5,336 people died their home alone. So one of the issues that Japan is facing, apart from the lack of art and music opportunity, education, is the isolation of people, is the loneliness of people. So we came down to the idea, why don't we use the music or art to create an environment where people can feel the sense of belongings, feel the human connections, feel the empathy among others. So providing the environment where people can feel the safe to be with others, creating community where they feel the sense of belonging, and a free environment that they can be themselves. Now, those are the things that I believe that, it's possible to do it through art and music, because they are the one of the most genuine expression of self. And they provide us opportunity and the potential to be vulnerable. And so empathy through music and art is then becomes our central theme for Mudita. And here's the 3 missions that we established to grow the art population in Japan through diversity and accessibility of art, to create an environment where any person can express themselves through the art and realize the value of art. Sorry, I have to move this. To provide a platform for artistic experiences that explore the realm beyond thinking, beauty, and reality. Now, those are the 3 main missions kind of built off from our central idea of empathy through music and arts. So in order to create such a community, and in order to bring a new perspective of what art and music can be for human connections, we continued our workshop and I came up with one key idea: discovery. Now, any of us or any of you who did a study abroad or went to, totally different, unknown sort of environment and lived there for a while, maybe we might share some experience where we don't know anything about this place. We don't know anything about this place. So it becomes, all of a sudden survival mode because we don't know anything. But at the same time, we become open because we don't know anything about it. you know. And, you know, it definitely brings us the new perspective of things that we didn't used to in the previous place. And it's just like a transformation of, you know, oh yeah, we thought that's what I was thinking, but then, you know, going to a new place, living there, it's a totally different things. And, you know, you sort of start thinking, oh yeah, maybe I can take that idea. You know, this place is considered as a natural thing. So it's just a whole transformation that happens in our mind, in our value. We experience the change. We become vulnerable to new things and try it out. Now, this kind of, you know, experience, we thought is a key to the discovery. And that really brought us our main sort of value as a Mudita. What makes us unique is the multicultural art experience. Not only we just kind of create art experience in Japan. Some people have done it before, but we might probably get the same result as we saw earlier, 70% who don't participate in art, or 40% who even didn't go to a museum or concert because they're not interested in. We need some new discovery. We need some new trigger, need some motivation. And that is possible to do it if we create some sort of openness, open-mindedness, or, you know, some experience that we would go through as we go study abroad, as we go different world. So Mudita as a collective, we also started, we actually founded a Mudita Artist Collective. Oops, went too far, sorry. Yeah, so these are just the names of a few people, and we have a huge list of people. But basically, we have such a vast network outside of Japan with artists and musicians who are willing to share their arts and interact with the people from Japan. And as you can see, it's such a diverse art music genre, as well as diverse nationalities and cultures. So during this pandemic, one of the things that we started is to create videos or to collaborate with these musicians and artists to create the contents and share with the audience in Japan, to sort of open their mind what art can be and what kind of art and music are out there. So one of the videos that we've done is this was done by Taiwo Adegoke, who is a composer and African folk music arranger. And we would just kind of do some short interview, asking them the experience with their art. Just time-wise, I would like to skip this video, but you can watch this on our YouTube channel. So feel free to watch some of those videos. The idea of sharing is something that we value as a Mudita Artists Collective. Now, there's always a debate on like open access versus intellectual property, but we promote sharing our voices to people who do not normally get the chance to. One of the missions that I presented earlier is the accessibility to diverse art and music experience. So one of the things that we really cherish is this idea of sharing, because we can now start the conversation by sharing and a benefit for both the audiences and the artist. So there is also several contents that are made during the pandemics. We call it sharing a series. Some of the artists from our artistic collective would just perform or share their art and then make a video or put out there on the YouTube so everybody can see it with all the subtitles if they needed to. Now, I would also like to skip this one, but you can again watch it on our YouTube channel. So the collaboration. Another key to this empathetic experience through art is to create art and music with others, and especially people from different countries. And that also triggers a special sort of empathetic sort of connections. We appreciate some people from different cultures dedicating their time and effort and art and contribute to part of my culture, or vice versa. And that moment is truly important for us as Mudita. And we did some collaboration with different artists from different countries. For this one, maybe I can play a bit of one of the videos that we did. This was a virtual chorus, a cappella chorus, and now we put together several Japanese folk music and the chorus music, and we sang it with 5 different universities in Japan, and collaborating with JM Voices, which is the a cappella group in Central Florida. And all the music was arranged by McLean, who's a good friend of mine from Florida. So it was Japanese folk music arranged by American arranger, sung by American group, and 5 different Japanese universities. So it was a truly kind of a magical moment when we put this together to really showcase how Japanese art can be shared by this kind of multicultural collaboration. So the full video will be also available on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe and feel free to watch it later. So this is, again, the collaboration. Again, because of the pandemic, we only did it virtually, but in the future, we hope to do more in person, like live musical performances or art collaboration. So anyone can be an artist is also what we believe and what we promote. So after pandemic and after we registered our non-profit organization in Japan, we did several workshops and art events and concerts, as I said before. And one of the workshops that we did is to basically host. We brought 3 artists One is a visual artist. As you can see, it's like a field art where you can kind of use your the paintings and put that on the canvas, and you just kind of create your color sort of code by yourself. And the other is pottery. So you actually kind of use the sand and make it sort of plates or cups or whatever the shape, and then they will just bring back to the place that they can kind of burn the actual pottery. And also we did an improvisation workshop too. Just come up with some random ideas and then creating it to the sound. So that was sort of kind of a comprehensive art workshop, art festival we did in Tokyo. We also did some concerts presenting the music from South America. So we also tried to kind of bring music that have never been played in Japan or that have been played less frequently. But again, just the sharing the idea of anybody can be artist is also important and key for us, and try to kind of create an opportunity for people to express themselves freely and share whatever the art that they make with the fellows or with other persons who are there at that point, and also create a community through these events. Speaking of creating a community, as a Mudita, we also hosted 20 online events called Saturday Talk. And it's basically bringing an artist and they talk about their art, they talk about their topic, and we have a short sort of discussion. And it's sometimes something like we have less sort of opportunity usually to really connect and to talk with the artist. And thanks to the pandemic, I guess we were able to do that virtually and sort of reform the community, that we grow the Mudita sort of community because of that, which was also important for our mission as well. So just briefly, Mudita in the future. Well, we have a couple of projects that we've been collaborating with other organizations and individuals. One of the things that are coming up is the film project that we are trying to put together a documentary film featuring various Japanese regions and kind of introducing a traditional Japanese music, put it into a documentary, including their lives and the history behind it. So that's starting with Amami Oshima Island, which is a southern island in Japan between Kagoshima Prefecture and Okinawa, which is just a beautiful island and rich history with the music called Shimauta. We also have some plan for next summer to sort of do a big, large scale of our art festival, collaborating with a Tasset ensemble from Thailand, which is exciting. And yeah, but in the future, again, we want to kind of aim to create a Mudita community where we can kind of be an initiator to share the beauty of art, the beauty of connecting with the people from different cultures, different backgrounds through art. So that's something that we've been kind of focusing on, starting from small in this community where we started in Tokyo, but gradually building out to all over Japan to increase the population, art population, music population in Japan, and to increase the connections with the people through art experience. So that's the sort of broad idea of Mudita in the future. Okay, so you get any questions, any thoughts, any supports, donations, feel free to contact with us or email. You can visit the website. And again, we have extensive content in our YouTube channel, so feel free to visit there. Otherwise, yeah, we can just move on to the discussion, I believe, or Q&A.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. So I believe people have some questions for you, right?
Yes. It's not really a. Of course, I have questions, but I first I would like to give this gratitude, like to say like, you have such a great mission, you know, like for your country, your organization, which is really, really, you know, beneficial for people in Japan and also the international level. So I think like the word that is kind of like really stick in my my brain when I listen is about empathy, right? So the empathy really create something like a big picture. I can see the, you know, like when, you know, Nobukorn, Tanakan, when we went to Japan like several years ago, we can see the empathy from people actually in the culture that really high. Like for example, just like small example to compare, like you guys have such a really big community in, you know, classical music, let's say, a lot of like Western culture, which really impact there. A lot of orchestra, a lot of composers, you know, Takemitsu, Toshio Hosokawa, Dai Fujikura, and Yuku Wabara, Satoru Chimizu, like that. You have like such a really great, you know, tier. I don't know, like that and also like a model, you know. Like meanwhile, somewhere in Thailand, we don't have that. So it's kind of like unfortunate somehow. But then I can see that I can capture one of your word that you said about like everyone can be an artist, right? So this is a very important word for me to think like what all of us like artists, what we are doing right now, right? So you take the role, being as a conductor, you know, having, you know, commute all the colleagues, friends, build up the organization, create projects like partnership. I think that's great. So my question for you is that, because like for us, like when I mentioned about like we don't have kind of model of composer artists, we kind of believe in anonymous, you know, like feeling somehow, like, you know, some songs in Thai which I will present something tomorrow which is may interest you about, like I think like the role model of Thai traditional belief is that we don't believe in authorship. Somehow like everything should be like no name. This is like original, like, but then like compare, like just like I go that too far, but then like to think about you know, like composers nowadays, we don't have maybe me or like some people, but like Tanakan of course, but then like just a question to you, like how would you think about if you born in a country that have no culture of like, you know, classical music or Japanese traditional music. Maybe you have, but it's not popular, for example. But I can see that it's really good in Japan. This is my impression. But how would you contribute to your community, or like how would you create something new for the society if you don't have one yet? Just a like question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Pierre, and thanks for asking. And you know, I do agree with you in terms of the, you know, having a models. You know, that's like as an artist, like huge goal and a huge motivation to be good, because we want to sort of achieve what they achieved, or because we look them up, we look up them for them, and you know, that's something that, you know, I think like my teacher, for example, as a Marin Alsop, she's the first female conductor in the American major orchestra, and since she took up her directorship at the Baltimore Symphony, then many female conductors were just so inspired. They can do it if Marin can do it, and like Marin just had such a strong, bold leadership to address that issue, and many people are just so inspired. And now, we have more female conductors than ever, although there's still, work needs to be done. So I do, yes, agree with Pierre that if we have such a, kind of standard or model, that will definitely inspire others and musicians to become a good. But my thought, well, again, this is my experience, so I cannot speak for everybody. But one of the things that really was stopping me from being an artist or being just myself was the judgmental environment. Now, I just kept sort of thinking about what other people would think, and what is sort of the expectation, and what would be the sort of right things to do at this moment, so I can make them happy. Now, those are the mindset that just naturally going through in my mind. But as soon as I started studying music in the U.S., especially in the liberal arts college like Rollins, people were very open to. They were actually caring others. They were not just open to new things, but they were just interpersonal level. They were just caring people. They were supportive. They were supportive with whatever you say, whatever you express. So that kind of judgmental free environment really enabled me to be me, and to be the best of me. That's just something that I experienced personally. And that's something also we, as a collective, Mudita, try to aim to create an environment where nobody can say, no, you cannot. But everybody say, let's try. Because that's like that's something that the only thing that you can do, and only thing that maybe you can come up with, and just try to care that, try to sort of respect that, and that kind of judgment-free zone, free environment for any artist is very important. Even though if it's small thing, but that becomes a very big first step for anybody. So anybody can be an artist is where Mudita provides their first step. Mudita provides the first sort of window to just start making art. Because as soon as you start it, you cannot stop doing it. Like for all of us, as soon as we start doing music, we just kind of pursue it because we loved it. But until we get to that point of first step, or the 70% that we saw that we have never really tried, I think Mudita, that our target is those people who have never been to any art activity events or museums or concerts. We try to bring them to the first step. And how do you do that? We create the environment that is judgmental free zone, and giving everybody the potential and opportunity to be an artist. I know this is sort of subjective and kind of vague and kind of a big idea, but I think that's what we are going for. But yes, Pierre, I think you're right. If we have some influential person who can be a model, that is, always inspirational, But I think if we don't have that, maybe this might trigger some of the ideas that you might be able to experiment with.
Cool. Thank you very much, Ryo. I think I do really appreciate, like, very much, and all of us do. I think the best from you is about you create a new platform, right? The chance for amateurs, for people who want to like first stone, right? Like to step, to create the environment that feel that, oh, someday I will be a great artist somehow, right? Like that, right? And I think like this is very beautiful, and I feel thankful. Like, and I think like we will, like both of our organization will do more things together, and I'm sure it's gonna be great. So anyone has any other comments? But thank you very much. I think this is such a great presentation. Yeah, and yeah. If anyone wants to add before we move.
Hi, Rio. First of all, thank you very much for your presentation and your endeavor to improve the artistic community, not only in Japan, but also the international level. I don't have a question, but I have thoughts about what you're doing. And I have to say, like, I really appreciate it a lot. Actually, like when you mentioned about the part of the happiness graph, it suddenly reminded me of something that is funny. It's not related to art and music, but somehow it's related to human progress in learning. And in this case, I'm gonna borrow context from my colleague who happened to be a very, very good chess player. And he did some kind of a professional as well. And he mentioned something very interesting that, like, when you started to play chess, at the very beginning, you would find like many people, like at the very young age, like kids, and try to go to a high level. You would see all of them, but suddenly, like, they're just gone. Like these people like disappeared. And one of the problem is when they gradually try to go high level, they no longer have happiness in what they're doing. And when they lack of this happiness and joy in playing it, they no longer improve. And also in chess, it's a little bit similar to music, actually, like composition, because they have to create like a chess notation on their own, like tactics, this kind of thing. And they're no longer able to improve this skill because they no longer enjoy doing that. And also like come back to the happiness graph though. When people are not happy, they no longer try to appreciate things or learning new things or improve new things. And in fact, making art and doing music and any kind of specialization like this, it requires like a lot of endeavors, progress of like time consumptions. Like without joy or happiness or even empathy in doing all of this, it's not gonna be better, And also like another thing though, this is quite a surprise to me because as an outsider, observer of your culture, every time like when I visit Japan, I tend to see like you have like so much of a explosion of arts and like very rich cultures. And it's surprisingly like that you have like very little budget to work on this thing. Yeah, but still, even with that amount of budget, like 1% was it that you mentioned, you guys still able to, like provide such like creativities and result to the world itself. For example, like manga, anime, even though it's not high art, but still, yeah. That's all from me. I just want to say like thank you so much, and I really respect your country and what you guys doing and try to achieve. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Tanaka. Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. And I want to just make a quick comment on your first point that you made. As you get like better at certain things, you get better, you get better, you get better, but at some point you don't really feel appreciation anymore. You just become competitive. That thing, I had a exact same feeling experience when I was actually, so in my former career before music, I actually used to race motorcycle, was just so into racing motorcycle, because of my dad's influence. And, I did, I won a 5th place in Japan one point. And so that, like high level and just competitive. And, like you said, nothing was fun. It was just so much pressure, and, everything was expected that, I have to win, I have to win, I have to win. The transformation, from that competitive, stressful feeling to finding the joy and appreciating what I do, is when I realized that it's not really individual competitive sport as you might think, racing. If you, when I realized that there is always a team, mechanics, coaches, sponsors, when I start realizing there is always the people who work together, there's always, kind of a moment of realization where all the team, all the people who will support you are looking at the same exact directions, that we want to have a best result. We want to have a best, the vehicle condition. Realizing that, and I'm being a part of that, that just gives me a joy. Just before winning any race or getting any result, just realizing the moment where people around you are going to the same directions, and I'm being a part of it. And that was just motorcycle. But in the music, as a conductor, that's the part that I love the most, being conductor, because I'm in front of everybody, looking at them eye to eyes. They play what they want to play their best. They want to play together. They want to make the most beautiful, the most excellent music that they can play. I can get to witness that, and I can be part of it. That's for me, the beauty of being a conductor, or being in orchestra. So I think, just once there is, small or tiny bit of realization that you are not alone in that moment, although it might be a competitive, individual sport or whatever, I think it will change the perspective from my experience of finding appreciation and, avoiding, all the stress and, pressure and everything. But, and also, I appreciate that you mentioned about manga and anime. I think that's also, really a beautiful art as a Japanese. That's something that, it's one sort of unique thing about the Japanese art, that, it's really distinct feature. And that's something that, I'm really hoping to bring it to, more sort of collaborative works, like, music and, anime or video game music or film music or manga. If we can kind of, promote that collaboration more and creating, new things, I think that will also, add on to some new realm of, Japanese art as well. So thanks for bringing that up.